close your eyes and think back to the last time you took an exam, specifically a multiple choice exam. Think about how that exam made you feel. Think about how you and all of your friends may have complained about how hard the test was or how it wasn't fair and it didn't actually test what you know. So, the question now is, how do we make these multiple choice exams more fair? How do we ensure that they are accurately and fully testing the knowledge you hold, not your ability to repeat information? Hi, my name is Drew, and today I'm going to be talking to you all about the concept inventory. Now, when I say concept, I don't mean an abstract, vague idea like having a basic understanding of Newton's second law without the ability to actually work problems involving it. When I say concept, I mean a mental category for different ideas and facts that all have a common set of features across multiple situations and contexts. In more simple terms, a concept is a big picture idea or a broad principle. A concept inventory is a research-developed multiple choice examination that is usually given as a pre- and post-test in a variety of courses. They're used in many different settings, but we are specifically focusing on concept inventories given in college-level STEM classes. Concept inventories are used for exposing areas of conceptual difficulty before instruction, measuring understanding, and tracking learning gains in the classroom after instruction. When trying to measure these different parts of learning, concept inventories are highly efficient and effective at allowing an instructor or researcher to gather large amounts of data in a short amount of time. Using concept inventories in these ways is important because they help instructors to understand the completeness of their students' knowledge and to maintain an awareness of the quality of their instruction. Instructors can also compare the scores and gains of their students with students in different classrooms, programs, and even universities. In a traditional multiple choice exam, this cannot be done because instructors oftentimes write their own exams. Instructor-written exams, unlike concept inventories, are not peer-reviewed, and oftentimes they're written to the way the material was taught. And we all know that not every instructor teaches the same material in the same ways. When using a concept inventory to examine the effectiveness of instructional methods, it is important to remember if there is little to no overall learning gain, the student's understanding of the topics on the concept inventory did not improve much from the beginning of the course. Although this is true, that does not necessarily mean that those students learned nothing, just that what they learned was not what was measured by the concept inventory. When talking about multiple choice instruments, there are always arguments that they are not the most accurate measures of student ability and knowledge. Concept inventories test different things than traditional multiple choice exams. A student who passes a traditional multiple choice examination has learned something, but that does not always mean that they have developed a conceptual understanding. Concept inventories aim to assess understanding, not the ability to repeat information. This can be seen best when looking at how students perform on tests like final exams. Students who perform highly on final exams tend to struggle on concept inventories because the classes they are taking are taught to the exams that the instructor writes instead of the inventory. Concept inventories are researched and developed in order to ensure the reliability. If a concept inventory is valid, it must measure what it is intended to measure. Reliability is a measure of whether or not the same answer is chosen when using the same test to measure something more than once. In simpler terms, reliability is how well a test produces consistent results. And those tend to look like around the same number of students picking the correct answer and the same number of students picking each incorrect answer choice between different times administering the test. We know that concept inventories are reliable because they have been tested in various ways and settings. Typically, when developing concept inventories, researchers give students open response versions of the multiple choice questions they want to give, and from these open response questions, they pick out popular patterns in responses and make those popular incorrect ways of thinking into what we call distractors. Those distractors are then mixed in with the correct answer for each question. In these inventories, each answer corresponds to a specific way of student thinking, unlike in a typical multiple choice exam where some of the choices may be unrelated to the question asked. This means that each answer contains student ideas and language when talking about a specific concept. Each question focuses on a specific knowledge set, and each answer focuses on telling the researcher as much as possible about how students are approaching problems. For example, a question on a concept inventory could ask how forces are acting on a ball as it gets tossed straight into the air. Many students, especially before instruction, may say that the force is in the direction the ball is moving. This answer is common, and students are oftentimes confusing the idea that force is proportional to acceleration with the idea that force is proportional to velocity. Research to develop inventories also means that students are usually not being tripped up by the language of a question either. To ensure that a concept inventory is valid and reliable, we can use a few key tests, such as classical test theory and item response theory. These are mostly used while writing the inventory. Both ensure that each question is fair and tells us something about populations and each individual within those populations. We aim for questions to not be too easy and not too hard, and classical test theory and item response theory help us to do that. To measure change using concept inventories, we use the differences in pre- and post-test scores. Normally, this takes the form of two different measures, normalized gain and effect size, although there are many others. Both give a measure of the effectiveness of a course in promoting conceptual understanding. Normalized gain calculates the amount students learn divided by the amount they could have learned. For example, if a student gets a 10 out of 20 on a pretest, they can improve by a total of 10 questions. If they score 14 on the post-test, they improve by 4, so their normalized gain would be 4 divided by 10, which is 0.4. Effect size focuses on how different two scores are, such as pre- and post-test scores. The biggest limitation when it comes to all multiple-choice instruments, including concept inventories, is the chance that a student may guess on a question and get it correct, but without the correct reasoning behind their answer. This tells us little to nothing about the ways that a student is thinking. Random guessing can make general claims about specific groups hard to validate because of the random guessing. Since student language is used to develop the distractors, all choices are ensured to represent actual student thoughts, which helps mitigate the effects of random guessing. Concept inventories are one of the most effective ways that instructors and researchers go about examining their students' conceptual understanding and the effectiveness of their instruction. They're different from traditional multiple-choice examinations in that they focus heavily on assessing understanding instead of the ability to repeat information. Concept inventories are research-developed and proven to be valid and reliable. This means that they lessen the effect of random guessing, the main limitation of traditional multiple-choice instruments. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you next time.